If you stand on a street corner in Hyderabad today, you watch the modern world blur past you. It's a city of rapid transit, sprawling glass tech parks, and constant motion. It is easy to assume that international relations have nothing to do with this daily routine. We tend to picture global politics as something that only happens in distant, closed-door United Nations meetings, entirely separated from our local streets. But we live in a state of deep interdependence. A geopolitical conflict in the Middle East instantly spills over to increase fuel prices at a neighborhood petrol pump in Telangana. A trade agreement signed in a distant capital decides whether a local tech startup can source the microchips it needs from Taiwan to survive the quarter. The boundary between domestic and foreign policy is an illusion. You cannot protect the home front without actively managing the world front. Outside its borders, every country follows an operational blueprint: the national interest. This mission rests on two pillars. First, security, ensuring physical safety, defending borders, and countering terrorism. Second, prosperity, fostering economic growth, securing energy, and driving innovation. Foreign policy, then, is the external labor required to make those internal goals a reality. To see how that labor is directed, we have to look at the executive branch in New Delhi. They act as the central conductor for India's international posture. The Prime Minister's office serves as the primary think tank where global strategy is designed. The Prime Minister frequently uses personal diplomacy, building direct relationships with other heads of state, to set the overarching tone for international negotiations. If the Prime Minister's office is the brain, the Ministry of External Affairs, the MEA, is the nervous system. Led by diplomats and the External Affairs Minister, they are the professionals on the ground executing the strategy day to day across the globe. Moving a nation of over 1 billion people in a single direction requires this massive machinery to coordinate perfectly. When they succeed, India speaks to the world with one coherent voice. Because there is no central world boss to enforce rules, countries have to use specific instruments to influence each other and get what they want. Nations rely heavily on a combination of military deterrence and diplomatic negotiation. By forming strategic alliances like the Quad, a security dialogue between India, the US, Japan, and Australia, countries can pool their strength to maintain regional stability without firing a single shot. Then there is economic statecraft. When India leverages its massive pharmaceutical manufacturing capacity, producing 1/3 of the world's vaccines, it generates immense bargaining power in international trade negotiations. Finally, countries project soft power. This is the ability to achieve geopolitical goals through cultural attraction rather than coercion. When the world practices yoga or watches Bollywood cinema, it builds a foundation of shared values and global goodwill. True geopolitical weight relies on combining these elements. You stack your diplomatic outreach on top of your economic leverage and back it up with cultural appeal. A country's strategy is never static. During the Cold War, India's priority was protecting its newly won sovereignty. It championed the non-alignment movement, actively refusing to join either the American or Soviet military blocs. By the 1990s, the global economy had shifted. Facing heavy domestic economic challenges, India launched its Look East policy to build urgent trade connections with the booming markets of Southeast Asia. Today, India operates under a doctrine of strategic autonomy. Instead of avoiding global alliances, India engages with multiple competing blocs simultaneously, partnering with the US and the Indo-Pacific, while also working alongside Russia and China in the BRICS economic group, all to serve its own specific interests. Over 75 years, India has adapted its posture from a protective, neutral crouch into an active, globally engaged stance. That modern stance is defined by an aspiration to be a leading power. Specifically, India has positioned itself as the chief advocate for the Global South, the collective developing nations across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. The diplomatic philosophy driving this is called Vishva Bandhu, which translates to a friend to the world. By taking responsibility for solving international crises, India builds deep, reliable geopolitical trust. We saw the ultimate proof of this during the pandemic with Vaccine Maitri. India supplied nearly 300 million vaccine doses to over 90 countries, often completely free of cost. Programs like this are frequently misunderstood as charity. In reality, massive foreign aid initiatives are highly calculated investments. By stabilizing neighboring regions, India creates a secure environment and a prosperous future market for its own economy. Which brings us right back to the skyline of Hyderabad. The diplomats in New Delhi negotiate the treaties, but it is the local coders, researchers, and factory workers in cities like this who actually forge the bargaining chips. News headlines tend to focus on wars and border disputes, but the vast majority of foreign policy is the quiet, peaceful coordination of daily global survival. It is the steady hum of shipping lanes, global data transfers, and vital scientific exchanges. Recognizing how that system works makes you an equipped citizen. Foreign policy is the operating manual for our interconnected